Okay. The opponent states that the missile defense system will strengthen relations with other nations. Actually, usually that tends to be quite the opposite. Missile defenses will be circumvented and even provoke hostility in opposing nations. The Herbert York, nuclear physicist and former chairman of UC San Diego Scientific and Academic Advisory Committee, states that there is a close relation between offense and defense whenever defenses threaten to take away something the offense really desires. In reality, the offensive will spend money and effort to overcome defenses put in their way. If someone builds a wall between you and a goal, you will put effort to go over that wall, or even better, destroy that wall. Herbert York again states that, in general, defensive deployments have the goal of denying the enemy's offense some mission it has set for itself, destroying opposing nuclear forces, crippling the opposing conventional military machine, destroying a few key targets in a mostly conventional war, crippling the enemy's ability to recover from war, and so on. Offensive planners value these missions more or less highly and are more or less willing to spend money and effort to penetrate defenses that get in their way. ABM defenses provoke hostility in other nations. Dr. Roger Hanberg, political science professor at the University of Central Florida, states that national missile defense itself is perceived as inherently provocative, capable of instigating conflict. The United States is already so disproportionately powerful that adding another increment to that power relationship frightens other states. That disturbance could be seen in the Europeans' response to the Clinton moves in the early summer of 2000 to revise, even possibly discard, the anti-ballistic missile treaty. Even arguing that missile defense is effective because the country has limited equipment is faulty, because the presence of a missile defense system is likely to motivate said countries to develop better weapons. Many now automatically assume that national missile defense will be effective against presently envisioned primitive ICBMs for long periods because those states supposedly lack the technological capacity to upgrade quickly. That may prove to be a wish rather than a fact, since the political incentives to upgrade for those states so motivated would be extremely high. Overall, missile defenses will be countered. In sum, what truth there is in action-reaction should be stated as follows. Where defenses really matter, they will be countered. If arsenals must increase to counter them, then arsenals will increase. The opponent also argues that missile defense system would be an effective defense. Well, it's not an effective defense. Missile defense is not a defensive shield, which is versatile, exclusively defensive, and near flawless. It is a defensive weapon which is partly offensive and has many drawbacks. Peter Mansell, former U.S. Navy program manager and Pentagon insider, states that analysts were challenged and caught between two approaches: a defensive shield or a defensive weapon. A defensive shield is capable of deflecting or destroying incoming missiles. Analysts were forced to consider defensive weapons with their obvious limitations. Also, only extremely high success rates would warrant a missile defense system. Peter Mansell introduces this thought experiment. Suppose that a missile threat could be anticipated to be one in the order of thousands of missiles in array. Assume 1,000 missiles for this example. Further assume that the best defensive weapon had a 90% probability of intercepting and destroying such array. Even with such a high-performing defense system, where 100 missiles would still get through to the targets, which, if they were nuclear tipped, would mean that 100 cities would be annihilated or severely damaged. Clearly, this would be called an ineffective defense. If the capability could somehow be raised to 99%, a value not yet achieved in the years of intense development, then 10 cities would still be destroyed. This is an ineffective defense. Such a realization quickly brought about the need to study other means to defend the nation. On a side note, 1,000 missiles is not a large sum. Russia has 3,100 nuclear missiles, and the U.S. has 5,576. This doesn't even include non-nuclear ballistic missiles. Also, if a country were to launch missiles, they would likely launch large numbers of them to ensure success. Finally, national missile defense deployment is based entirely on probabilities, not concrete certainties. What infuriates many believers is that their continued awareness that any deployment decision concerning national missile defense remains a probabilistic one rather than a straightforward up or down choice. President Clinton in September 2000 again demonstrated that reality. And as has been discussed, national missile defense as a practical matter remains a hard decision for policymakers, regardless of their personal commitment to the larger concept. This degree of difficulty arises from the political uncertainties created by often rapidly shifting threat perceptions, the always present cost factors, plus continued technological uncertainties. Lastly, the opponent states that it will be a comprehensive defense. The test results and the nature of missile defense systems leads to many problems, which means that it's not a comprehensive defense. Lieutenant General Ronald Kadish, the Ballistic Missile Defense Organization Director, in May of 2000 said, one of the things I worry about a lot is that one wire shakes loose in the system that prevents the test from being successful, or it's that plug or the water molecule in the system that gets you. It doesn't have to do with the fundamental design as much as the complexity of the stuff that we're building. Ironically, on July 7th, General Kadish's worry occurred when the hit-to-kill vehicle failed to separate from the booster, aborting the test. His comments subsequently were that the failed sequence was not even on his list of possible problems. A national missile defense system could also prove to be even more problematic than a theater missile defense system, where a theater missile defense system is small scale, simpler, and generally single target. This is the portable system that the advocation outlined with the portable submarine system. According to Dr. Roger Hanberg, the continual THAAD failures, which is theater missile defense, before testing success was achieved on the 7th attempt, which illustrates for these observers the inherent difficulty in ensuring success in combat. Even though THAAD is a theater-level system, the technical issues for national missile defense are thought to be similar, just more difficult. Striking a single target is one thing. Stopping multiple possibly evasive warheads represents another entirely different level of difficulty. Lastly, overall missile defense is a highly technical and scientific endeavor. It should follow the scientific method, and it should show high degrees of success consistently for it to be accepted as a solid system for national security.